What if I told you that in the blood-soaked era of samurai warlords, a black man, born thousands of miles from Japan, earned a sword, a title, and the trust of one of the most powerful men in Japanese history, and then disappeared not in fiction, not in fantasy, but in real documented history? His name was Yasuke, and he may be the greatest samurai you've never heard of. Let's rewind. It's the 16th century. Japan is fractured. Warlords, called daimyo, fight for dominance in a country that has known nothing but war for over 100 years. Enter the Jesuits, Christian missionaries from Portugal and Italy, determined to spread the gospel and European influence into Asia. Among them was Alessandro Valignano. He wasn't just a missionary. He was a strategist, a man who believed that to spread Christianity in Japan, they had to impress the Japanese elite. And Valignano had something impressive indeed. A man towering over 6 feet tall, muscular, dark-skinned, unshakably calm. A man who had already traveled through Portuguese territories in India and Africa. A man whose name history would record barely was Yasuke. Let's be honest, most Japanese in the 1500s had never seen a person of African descent. So when Yasuke arrived in Kyoto in 1581, he caused a riot, literally. Louis Froys, a Jesuit missionary present at the time, wrote that the crowds were so overwhelming, the gates of the Jesuit church were broken. People were crushed trying to get a glimpse of him. Imagine that, just your presence triggering chaos in the capital of a foreign land. But this was only the beginning. Word reached the ears of a man named Oda Nobunaga. Now, if you know anything about Japanese history, you know Nobunaga wasn't just another warlord. He was the warlord, modernizing, ruthless, brilliant. The man who set Japan on the path to unification, and he wanted to meet Yasuke, so Yasuke was brought before him. Here's where it gets surreal. According to historical records, when Nobunaga first saw Yasuke, he thought his skin was dyed with ink, so he ordered him to strip, then scrubbed him. Only when the ink didn't come off did Nobunaga realize this man's color wasn't painted. It was real now. You might think this would be the end. A curiosity, a foreigner turned sideshow. But that's not what happened. Nobunaga was fascinated, not just by Yasuke's appearance, but by his strength, his intelligence, and most importantly, his presence. Within days, Yasuke wasn't just a guest. He was given a house, he was given servants, he was given a katana, and in that moment, Yasuke became samurai. This wasn't ceremonial, this was real. The Shincho Koki, Nobunaga's own chronicle, records that Yasuke was officially made a retainer. That means he swore loyalty to Nobunaga and became part of his inner circle. Let's pause. A black man, in 16th century Japan, given a title and a sword, made a personal guard to the most feared warlord in the land. Why isn't this in every history book? Seriously, Netflix had to make an anime about it before most of us even heard his name. But this isn't a fairy tale. It's recorded in Portuguese letters, Jesuit archives, and Japanese samurai chronicles. Yasuke rode into battle with Nobunaga. He witnessed history in the making, the rise of Japan's first real central power. He sat at Nobunaga's table, spoke fluent Japanese, lived in the castle. He was not some sideshow. He was family, he was a samurai. But then it all fell apart. June 1582, Honnoji Temple. Nobunaga was betrayed by one of his own generals, Akechi Mitsuhide. Yasuke was there, the temple was surrounded. Nobunaga knew there was no escape. So he performed seppuku, ritual suicide, to avoid capture. But Yasuke didn't run, he fought. He stayed by Nobunaga's son, Nobutada, helping defend their position. Outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched, eventually Yasuke was captured, and this is where things get strange again. You'd think after fighting shoulder to shoulder with Japan's most feared daimyo, Yasuke would be executed. But Mitsuhide said that Yasuke wasn't Japanese, so he wasn't a real samurai. He was just a servant. And with that, he was handed back to the Jesuits. And then he vanished, no records. No grave, no farewell, no song. The black samurai disappeared from official memory, but the fragments remain, the Shincho Koki, the letters of Louis Froys, the artwork from the 1600s showing a dark-skinned warrior, and oral traditions, whispers of a foreign samurai who once stood guard over the flames of Japanese history. It makes you wonder, how many others like Yasuke were erased? How many stories didn't survive the ink of those who wrote the official past? But here's the thing about history, it remembers eventually. And today, Yasuke's name is being spoken again, in classrooms, in books, on screens, and maybe most importantly, in the hearts of people who recognize what he truly was. Not a servant, not a footnote, not a curiosity, a warrior, a samurai, a legend. And if you think that's wild, wait until you hear about the underwater city off India's coast that some believe could be the real Atlantis. Click the video on screen now to uncover the mystery of Dwarka, a sunken city that may change everything we know about ancient civilization. Because sometimes history doesn't whisper, it roars.